Poštovani gledalci, dobrodošli u još jedno izdanje emisije Granice istoka. Ja sam Harun Karčić. Aktualna kriza sa koronavirusom zakomplikovala je geopolitiku na različite načine. Globalno tržište nafte i plina suočavalo se sa prekomjernom proizvodnjom i prije izbijanja pandemije COVID-19. Sada je taj problem znatno izraženiji, a to pogađa mnoge zemlje koje ovise o prodaji energenata. Kako će niske cijene nafte i plina utjecati na geopolitiku Bliskog istoka, a kako na njihove ekonomije i politike, analiziramo u nastavku emisije. Prije razgovora sa našim gostima, pogledajmo uvodni prilog o najnovim dešavanjima u Arapskom zaljevu. Katar ima neke od najvećih zaliha prirodnog plina. Preciznije, geolozi procjenjuju da se ispod kopnene i morske površine te zemlje nalazi 858 biliona kubnih metara plina. Katar godišnje izvozi 77 milijuna tona ukapljenog plina, ali od toga se samo 6 milijuna tona proda odmah na tržištu. Ostatak prodaje vezan je dugogodišnjim ugovorima za daleka azijska tržišta. 62% državnih prihoda, odnosno 45,3 milijarde, dolazi od prodaje ukapljenog plina. Katar je trenutno najveći izvoznik prirodnog plina u svijetu. Godišnje izveze 107 milijuna kubnih metara plina. Na drugom mjestu je Australija koja izveze 104,7 milijuna. Treću poziciju drže Sjedinjene Američke Države koje izvezu 47,5 milijuna. Zatim Rusija sa izvozom 47,5 milijuna. Na petom mjestu je Malezija koja izveze 35 milijuna kubnih metara. U junu je cijena prirodnog plina pala na $1,85 za milion britanskih termalnih jedinica, referentne vrijednosti u prodaji plina. Poređenja radi, u oktobru prošle godine 1 milion britanskih termalnih jedinica prodavao se za $6,80. To je pad za gotovo 3/4. 70% katarskog prirodnog plina, odnosno približno 48 milijuna tona, ide na azijska tržišta. Ostatak Evropskoj uniji. Preciznije, 23% katarskog izvoza prirodnog plina ide Južnoj Koreji, dodatnih 23% na indijsko tržište. Kini ide 20% katarskog izvoza, Evropskoj uniji 12%, Tajvanu 6%, Pakistanu 6%, Tajlandu 4% i ostatak manjim bliskoistočnim tržištima. Bušenje i crpljenje plina u Kataru je najjeftinije u svijetu i košta samo $1,5 po milion britanskih termalnih jedinica. Uprkos krizi uzrokovanoj koronavirusom, Katar ima velike planove. Državna kompanija Katar Gas je najavila da će povećati kapacitet proizvodnje za 64% kako bi dostigli 110 milijuna tona do 2025. Zatim 126 milijuna tona do 2027. godine. Kako bi zadržali mjesto lidera u proizvodnji, Doha je naručila 100 supertankera od kineskih i južnokorejskih firmi vrijednosti $21 milijardu. Ti supertankeri ohlade prirodni plin na minus 162 stepena i pretvore ga u tečnost. To Kataru daje fleksibilnost i brzinu da plinom opskrbljuje mnoga tržišta. Istovremeno, supertankeri omogućavaju skladištenje plina, dođe i do ponovnog pada cijena ili smanjenja potražnje u svijetu. Uprkos koronavirusu, Katar nastavlja razvijati LNG projekte u Meksiku i obali Slonovače, kao i LNG terminal Golden Pass u Teksasu vrijedan $10 milijardi. Idemo sada do Nice gdje se nalazi Mehmet Öğütçü, stručnjak za energetiku i predsjednik londonskog energetskog kluba. Mehmet, hello and welcome to the Jazeera Balkans channel. Now to start with, as the COVID-19 pandemic has stymied oil and gas activity, for how long do you think low oil and gas prices can hover in the world market?
Well, I mean, yes, of course, COVID-19 has affected the oil and gas markets significantly beyond our expectations. But even before this crisis erupted, we had serious structural problems in hydrocarbon industry. There was a declining demand for oil and gas, and also oversupply. There was abundance of oil and gas in the market, which drove the prices lower. With this crisis for the past almost 6-7 months coming on, and the demand destruction was significant. Although OPEC plus Russia-led non-OPEC countries made historic decisions to cut the production in oil markets especially, still it hasn't recovered properly. I mean, we even saw minus $37 in Texas oil market benchmark. And now the prices stabilized something like $40, more or less. And with the decision by OPEC plus Russia to further reduce the production cuts from almost 9.7 million barrels per day to around, I think, 6-7 million barrels, we should expect that the prices might slip further down a bit, because we are seeing some signs of demand recovery, especially in Asia, but it's not sufficient yet to boost the prices. So my guess is that by the end of this year, we will be in the band of $40 to $50 per barrel. In 2021, it might go a bit further up, but I think we are far from prices that we have seen before, $65, $70. It's going to take a long time we reach this price level again.
Now, the World Bank estimates that while both natural gas and coal prices are expected to recover in 2021 as the impact of COVID-19 wanes, natural gas prices are expected to see a stronger recovery. Is that something you agree with?
Well, it depends, because natural gas, as you know, is used mostly for power generation. Then it has industrial use as well as residential heating. But in some countries like US, there is an enormous amount of gas coming into market thanks to shale revolution. We see a gasification of the economy in many areas, even in transportation. So we expect gas demand to go up. But what we have seen since the onset of the corona pandemic, gas demand in parallel to oil has also declined. And the prices in LNG, I can say slashed almost down to $2 per MBTU. And I think more or less we'll follow the same pattern as in oil, because unless you cut the production in natural gas, for which we don't have an OPEC-like organization, although there is this natural gas exporting organization based in UAE. However, I don't think that there is any single authority that can decide on the production, market share, and others. There is also fear among major producing nations to lose market share, just like the Saudis and Russians worried about the US shale taking a greater share from the pie, world markets. So it's not only oil prices, natural gas prices, warfare that is going on right now, it's also market share, both in pipeline gas as well as in LNG. And Qatar is adamant not to lose their market share and also advantage in price. We know that recently they even ordered 100 new LNG tankers from Korea.
Now, oil would need to be priced at $78 per barrel for Saudi Arabia to balance its government budget. The Russian Federation's break-even budget point is in the range of $40 per barrel. Does this mean that low oil prices will shrink these governments' budgets, and how will this impact their foreign policies?
Well, we are already seeing signs that both Saudi Arabia and Russia will be struggling seriously. And we know that Saudi Arabia has some sovereign wealth funds which can sustain the economy for a while. But its budget for 2020 estimated that the price will be something around $75, which we will not see, almost half the price. Therefore, all big projects like 2030 vision, Saudi vision, huge investments will be delayed or postponed. Russia is in a worse position because more than gas, Russia depends on oil exports. And the budget has suffered, and we will be feeling the effects of that in the country's economy, as well as in its foreign policy approaches. As we have seen, these major producers have serious foreign commitment as well. Russians in Black Sea, Ukraine, Georgia, and Syria and Libya, Saudis, especially in Yemen. Yeah. So these are critical periods. I think with the lower prices continuing in the foreseeable future, they have to discipline their domestic economies, launch long-delayed reforms of the oil and gas industry, but also overall economy, and reduce perhaps the heavy financial commitment that some of the foreign policy adventures require.
Right. And finally, you are a former Turkish diplomat. What do you make of Turkey's increased activities in the Eastern Mediterranean, but also in Libya? To what extent is this driven by a demand to gain a greater control over natural resources?
Well, I think there are two elements here we have to bear in mind. One is about the extensive gas exploration and discoveries, especially in Egypt, Zohr and Nur fields. They are gigantic gas findings of this century. And in Israel, Tamar and Leviathan, Tamar for domestic markets, Leviathan for exports. Then Cyprus. I think most problematical among them are Cyprus, because it is conflicting with Turkish assertions about the exclusive economic zone, continental shelves, and also the rights of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Turkey. And this is the most problematical one. I don't think that this can be solved anytime soon. However, there are serious issues about the markets for Israeli, Egyptian, and Lebanese one day, if it happens, gas, because European markets are already saturated. I don't think there is any room for a viable pipeline, East Med pipeline, going via Greece to Italy. It's not going to happen, in my opinion. And I think the Turkish position is not only about the natural gas discoveries and what can be explored in that region. Of course, it's one of the objectives. But the real objective is Turkey feels that there is a need for equitable and lawful exploration of this region and the also exclusive economic zone. That's the reason why Turkey signed this agreement with the only UN-recognized government in Libya, Sarraf government, to demarcate its lines in Mediterranean so that there will be greater access to Mediterranean, because Turkish concern derives more about the access to Mediterranean. Because if you follow only UN Convention on the Law of Sea, it doesn't fit into the requirements, special physical, geographical, and equitable requirements of the region. Therefore, Turkish intention is not only about the energy resource exploration, but also maintaining its own rights and also legitimate sovereign areas in the Mediterranean.
Right.
That's the reason why there is a confusion and conflict.
Mr. Mehmet, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Kakve će posljedice imati koronavirus na ekonomije i sigurnost zemalja Bliskog istoka? Kako će to utjecati na ratove koji se vode u Jemenu i Libiji? Hoće li to omogućiti veći prodor Rusije i Kine? Saznajte u grafici koja slijedi. Idemo sada do Londona gdje se nalazi stručnjak za naftu Nehad Ismail. Mr. Nehad, hello and welcome to the Al Jazeera Balkans channel. Now, Qatar is one of the biggest LNG producers in the world. Recently, it placed an order for 100 supertankers. What does Qatar aim to achieve in the long run, despite the price of gas dropping?
The dropping of the price is due to oversupply at the present. Also, the sluggish demand due to the lockdowns and closure of the economies because of the coronavirus. But this is temporary. In the long term, the prices will be stable and will rise. Qatar has an ambitious program to raise output from the giant North Field from 77 million tons a year to 100 million tons by 2024 and 126 million tons by 2027. Therefore, it needs 100 super tankers. It needs to keep busy to supply the world. It's becoming now the world #1 supplier of liquefied natural gas. Actually, it supplies some 30% of the global needs for this vital material. Therefore, we expect Qatar to keep raising production and becoming more efficient, and it has a low-cost production base. Therefore, it can compete effectively with competitors like Russia, USA, Australia, and so on. So therefore, Qatar is well placed to meet the market needs. Therefore, it has a very good future. And we know that in 2019, Qatar walked out of OPEC. It withdrew in order to focus on developing its wealth in gas, LNG, and other derivatives. Therefore, Qatar is really doing very well in this, and it will be #1 exporter. Actually, at the moment, it's the major exporter of gas. It exports gas to China, South Korea, Japan, India, as well as Europe, including UK and Poland, for example. Therefore, it has a bright future, and it needs to develop the giant North Field to raise more, to increase the production, and it needs the tankers to supply the world.
Right.
Therefore, it's obvious that Qatar is doing the right thing as far as LNG is concerned.
Right. Now, how long do you think low oil and gas prices will continue to hover, and how will this impact Gulf states that fill their state coffers almost exclusively from the sale of oil and gas?
This is a tough one. How soon will the coronavirus will go and disappear? How soon will global demand for oil will start to increase? It's increasing slowly because of the partial easing of restrictions and lockdowns. But we are still in the danger zone because recently there have been spikes in the spread of COVID-19 in the USA, in the states of Florida, California, Texas, also in Brazil, and also in India. Therefore, it all depends on how soon the world overcomes this epidemic, and then demand will rise. We know that the prices of oil and gas will remain lower than they were in 2019 because of this. As for the Gulf economies, they have been impacted badly. In March and April, the 6 nations of the Gulf Cooperation Council lost approximately $200 billion due to the low price of oil. The IMF estimated that the combined contraction of the economies of the Gulf states is 7.6%. Saudi Arabia, 6.8%. These countries need a price of $70 per barrel or more. They can't carry on working and living on prices of $40 or below. And even the IMF has a very bad prediction. It said, if things don't improve, the wealth of these nations will disappear in 15 years. This is a warning. Therefore, the price of oil has to go up, demand needs to pick up, and that will only happen once the world economy starts improving after the elimination of the coronavirus.
But do you think the price of oil will ever go back to the $100 per barrel that we saw a couple of years ago?
I doubt it very much for several reasons, but one of them, the USA, the White House, will not allow the prices to go above $70 to $80 per barrel because it will hurt the pockets of the voters, of the drivers who buy gasoline every day to drive their cars. But a price between 50 and 60 is acceptable to America because it will help the shale oil industry, and it rescued many. I mean, the recent price improvement has helped America a lot. But nobody wants prices below $30, and nobody wants prices above $80. Saudi Arabia needs a price of $84 per barrel to balance its budget. Above that, the world economy will suffer and we go back into recession. So I am doubtful that the prices will go up to $100, not in the foreseeable future for a variety of reasons. One of it, there is still excess demand, excess supply in the market, and a slow demand as well. But the International Energy Agency, the Paris-based IEA, estimates that world demand will pick up from 86.9 million barrels a day now to approximately 94 or 95 million barrels a day in 2021. So the outlook is good, providing the COVID-19 is contained. This is the essential element in this equation, Harun.
Right. Now, Saudi Arabia tripled its value-added tax rate as the coronavirus and plunging oil prices start to hammer the kingdom's economy. How do you think ordinary Saudi citizens will react to this?
Well, the Saudi citizens, of course, are not pleased with this. I mean, we witnessed some panic buying for essential commodities in the one after the announcement of the tripling of the VAT in June. But the message, the blunt message of the government to the people of Saudi Arabia, the party is over. Now it's time to tighten your belts and spend less. The trouble is, in a recession, governments usually cut VAT to stimulate demand and to activate the economy. In Saudi Arabia, they're doing the opposite. We know Saudi Arabia suffered a double blow from the coronavirus closures as well as from the low oil prices. But it's not the way to raise money through tripling of VAT. The tripling of VAT will raise about $28 million. Compare that to the budget deficit of about $100 billion. And it is insignificant, really. And it will cause problems for the retail sector. Consumer demand will shrink. The retail sector will suffer maybe 30 to 35% reduction according to some estimates. The inflation index will increase by 6%. So overall, it's not a good policy to raise VAT when the economy is suffering and the consumer is suffering. In Europe, and America, they are cutting VAT. They are putting more money into the pockets of people to help them carry on, and even helping companies so they can survive throughout this difficult period.
Right. Mr. Nehad Ismail, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, sir.
Rast potražnje bit će spor i zavisit će od dinamike pandemije COVID-19. Ako ne bude drugog vala, svjetska potražnja za naftom i plinom mogla bi se vratiti na nivo iz 2019. do sredine 2021. godine. Zemlje zaljeva su uočile da moraju što hitnije diversifikovati svoje ekonomije kako ne bi ovisile isključivo o prodaji energenata. Poštovani gledalci, bilo je to sve u ovom izdanju emisije Granice istoka. Ako ste propustili bilo koji dio, emisiju možete pogledati na našoj web stranici balkans.aljazeera.net. Hvala na pažnji.